Welcome aboard the Rusted Bus, taking pit stops to all things macabre, mystical, and paranormal. Today's stop, Forest Haven.
Story 1, Forest Haven. Pushing through the overgrowth, a branch swings back and hits me in the face, swiping the contact lens right out of my eye. Fuck, I yell as I begin to wonder if this is even worth it. But that's when I see it through the trees, the massive building moving closer and closer each step I take. The moon shining just behind the peak of the building, setting up the perfect shot. I yank my camera from my bag. This is going to be perfect for my article next week, I mumble to myself with excitement. The Forest Haven Asylum made quite a name for itself in town, and not in a very good way. Its grim history makes it the perfect subject for a Halloween feature on my blog. I snap a few shots out front before heading to the doors. Before my hand even touches the door, it begins to slowly creak open as the wind blows leaves in from behind me. What a mood setter, I chuckle. I walk into the front desk. There's paperwork scattered everywhere. I pick one up at random and blow a thick layer of dust off. Sid Camwick, I read aloud. Age 26, admitted October 8th, 1941, expired January 13th, 1945. Cause of death, asphyxiation. Damn, I sigh. I take a picture before setting the sheet back down. I start to pick up another when a low humming travels down the halls. What's that? I whisper as I cautiously head down the hall. The humming gets louder as I approach a room to my left. I peek in through the broken window on the door. There are multiple dark shadows standing in a circle. Hand in hand, they hum until one lights a match and drops it onto the ground before them. My eyes follow it to the ground, where it illuminates the corpse of a cat that's missing its head. I let out a sharp gasp before covering my mouth and stumbling backwards. The shadowy figures simultaneously turn towards me. I don't know what's going on, but it can't be any good. My head started to screaming to get out, get out, get out, as I start to run back down the hall. I turn the corner and reach for the front doors that opened so effortlessly before to find them now locked from the outside. What the fuck? I scream in a panic as I frantically yank on the doors till a handle pops off. No, no, no. I'm shaking as I look to the front desk and decide to crawl underneath it in a quick attempt to hide. Minutes pass and I don't hear a sound. It's dead quiet. Did they not come for me? But why are the doors suddenly locked? I decided to wait a few more minutes before I determined it must be safe to find another way out. I crawl out from the desk and begin dusting myself off when I suddenly feel something hit my head and begin to black out. I open my eyes to the shadowy figures hauling me down muddy stairs. I kick and scream, but I can't break free of their grasp. We enter the basement. It's so dark here and I can't see a thing. They throw me down and I feel the wind roll over my face as they slam what seems to be a lid over top me. Am I in a coffin? I hear shovels groveling beside me as the dirt thumps down above me. Shit, no, why are you doing this? I scream as I claw at the lid and kick as hard as I can. I receive no answer, just the muffled sounds of their humming getting further and further away. I continued to scream for help until it became hard to breathe. I gasped for air and closed my eyes as I found myself losing consciousness until a booming voice pierces through the darkness. Time to get up. A light flickers on. I squint my eyes to see what looked like a nurse walking towards the window in the middle of the room. She whips the curtains open and I notice the bars encasing the glass. I look around the room. White tile, a bed across from me with a girl wearing plain white sweats. I look down at myself and notice I'm wearing the same thing. What's going on? I ask the nurse. Did someone find me down there in the hospital? Wondering if I'd been miraculously rescued, thank God. Oh, honey, sighed the nurse. How many times must I tell you? It was just a bad dream. Your dreams aren't real. A dream? What? No, I went down to the abandoned asylum outside of town, Forest Haven. I was taking photos for my next article. I write a blog that's been getting really popular lately, and I figured a segment on Forest Haven would be perfect to post on Halloween next week. But when I was there, these shadow people, they grabbed me and the nurse cuts me off with a deep sigh before calling down the hall. Doc, she's going on with her delusions again. Gonna need to get an extra dose today. A man shuffles into the room, handling a small syringe.
You're gonna feel a small pinch, like usual, okay?
He says as he moves in closer to me. Wait, no. I push back in my bed till I'm against the wall. He goes to pull my arm forward, but I yank it back and kick at him. He
Ugh.
grunts before lunging forward and pulls my shirt towards him as the nurse yanks my head down by my hair. I feel a sharp stab to my neck. He tosses the empty syringe behind him and straps my arms down to the bed.
You just had to fight it. Can't be good for a single day, huh, Sid?
Sid? My name's not. My eyes go wide as I stare at the ceiling, reflecting on the patient record I had taken a picture of earlier. I start to feel nauseous as my vision begins to blur. I look at the doctor and the nurse as they leave the room. They turn around to shut the door, their faces only shadows as they whispered,
See you later, Sid. You wrote out the story. Now let's take a twisted drive through the inspiration. The truth is often stranger than fiction.
Forest Haven, formerly known as the District Training School for the Mentally Special, was a state school and hospital for children and adults with mental disabilities. It was opened in 1925, and after countless reports of physical and sexual abuse, medical incompetence, 10 deaths from aspiration pneumonia, and over 100 deaths under suspicious circumstances, totaling to 400 reported deaths, the doors were finally closed on October 14, 1991, by order of a federal judge. When it opened, it was an institution made for educating patients with useful life skills who were able to put teaching into practice in the 300 acres and 22 separate buildings that made up the land. At its height, the institution housed over 1,000 patients. However, in the 1960s, funding was cut, and the agenda was extended to include patients who suffered from epilepsy. This would mark the decline, as the institution was not equipped to handle the needs of the more severe patients. And to add fuel to the fire, in 1974 a nearby orphanage closed, leading to over 20 children of varying ages to be relocated to Forest Haven. Safe to say, the staff bit off more than they could chew, and word was finally getting out. Many reports were filed throughout the years by concerned parents of the patients, but they were ignored. That is, until one group of parents, including the parents of one Joy Evans, filed a lawsuit in 1973. The lawsuit was against the city mayor for neglect and medical incompetence, asking for better living conditions and the staff to be reprimanded. And so, with that, what is happening outside? There was like 80,000 cops. And the staff to be reprimanded. And so, with that, Evans versus Fenty began. The court ordered for proper living conditions and to no longer impede the constitutional rights of the patients, in which the defendants ignored, stating that they already made proper living conditions before the lawsuit was even made. And through all their silky words, sadly, 3 years later, Joy Evans would die of neglect at the age of 18. This would spark many more families to join in the lawsuit, along with This would spark many more families to join in the lawsuit, along with the Department of Justice. And in 1978, a court order was issued to Forest Haven, forcing them to relocate many patients to group homes. But this would not be the end of operations within the facility. Throughout the years, many more deaths would happen, including the 10 reported from aspiration pneumonia. But finally, in 1981, justice would find a way. Staff member Lemuel Taylor was charged with misappropriation and theft, stealing over $40,000 from patients, and after a 2-week trial, was found guilty. This would put Forest Haven back in the eyes of the law, and Evans versus Fenty would be revisited. Forest Haven would go on to be monitored, and what they found was disgusting. Many accounts of rampant physical, mental, and sexual abuse were reported. Patients spoke of being hit by belts, switches, and even baseball bats, with many having dental records of missing teeth or fractured jaws. And for those who would die by these horrible injuries would be thrown into a mass grave, leading to many being unidentified. The court has finally seen enough. and on March 1990, Forest Haven was issued an outplacement for all remaining patients and to no longer allow any new patients. Forest Haven would abide, and on October 1991, would see the last of their patients leave through its doors. Survivors and parents of the victims would go on to construct a plaque dedicated to the 389 buried together.
It's time to hit the brakes and open the doors to discussion.
So we are the Rusted Bus. We're taking pit stops to the macabre, the mystical, and the paranormal. So what our goal mostly is we just want to tell really great stories about mythos and legends, stuff like that. And one of my favorite parts about us is that Ember actually will write stories about like some of the legends and mythos that like will have some experience, some like inspiration from the research that I would do about whatever our topic is. And so yeah, we just want to have like a lot of fun just going over all like the weird stuff, unexplainable stuff. Um, just take where our goal is to start through all of America first, like different legends and myths, and then work our way out from there to like more wild stuff. And right now we're starting in Maryland, so like today's topic is Forest Haven. And we actually had a bunch of we actually went there ourselves and we had our own experiences there.
Yes, today's story was based on Forest Haven, and the part about the cat was something that actually happened. Like as soon as we walked in, pretty shortly after we walked in, I believe.
It was like the first room, yeah, we went into.
Yes, there was a headless cat.
Going through the morgue, just like the character.
It was and pretty mummified. I don't know why it was there, but we thought it would make great inspiration for a spooky story. Say like one of our general like jokes when we were there I was thinking that maybe it was like hoping it wasn't cult related, just like an animal like attack another animal.
I remember it having like some weird symbols and all around it. So
It was very odd. That wasn't the only animal we found in there, though. In one room, there was a squid just hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
That one did not make it into the story. But I do know, like, in the story that I wrote, the character gets dragged to the basement where they're buried. That was, I could not find any proof, but at the time when we went to Forest Haven, this was years ago, probably like 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
At the time, there was a rumor going around that people had uncovered the shallow graves in the basement, and I remember seeing a news thing about it. I can't find anything about it anymore. So I think it was never proven to be true. But I decided to put that in the story anyway because that was one of the reasons we went to check the basement to see if there was any unmarked graves in the basement. Like, well.
Yeah, I remember that being very weird because I also remember there being talks about like, how there were bodies found in the basement. And we went there, it was just.
Yeah, we did not find any like dirt floors, but still, I thought it would be cool to put in a story like that there was dirt floors and getting buried in the basement.
And we got the whole inspiration of when the character was reading about the morgue. We did the same thing, and they're like, if you ever go there, which I suggest, but do it legally because they don't take kindly to trespassers. So
we saw people get taken by a police car.
Yeah.
We were there. There were people. Urban explorers are nice enough not to rat each other out, so they are lucky they did not tell them we were there. But it did suck. It was unfortunate.
Yeah.
We were teenagers when we first went, so we weren't that scared of it. Now we're told to trespass without.
Now we can get fined.
And definitely it is. It's near a functional a junior detention center, right? That's fully functional right behind it. So the security was always kind of pretty heavy around that area. But nonetheless, we've been about I think 3 times total. The last time I went was Halloween night, like probably 2013, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
That was,
I think it was 2013.
That was a pretty creepy night. I remember that.
Or 2012 of Halloween night. Yes. We went to look for ghosts, but we didn't actually pick up anything.
Well, no, we had that desk slammed down on us in the hallway. We were checking out the different rooms. And I remember that freaked me out. I remember that. Yeah, we had we were all in the same hall, but we were checking out separate rooms. And I remember there was a desk in the hall, and it just slammed down. We all jumped.
The scariest thing I remember from Halloween night is just the fox.
Yeah.
It took us a while to even realize that they were foxes. They just sound like women screaming, I'm sure, if you've looked it up.
Yeah, we were definitely being hunted. They were like at the tree line waiting for us. And we were like, let's just go around.
Because that is how you get to Forest Haven. You usually, there's a road, but it has a security check on that road because it goes straight to the junior detention center. So to get to Forest Haven, you'd have to go through the woods instead to avoid that. It's quite a bit of a trek. There's a whole nother abandoned like house in the middle, just in the middle of all of this plants and shrubbery that I don't even know what that was, and there's not much left to it. But that was another part that I got from the story where the main character gets their contacts swept out from their eyes. That literally happened to our driver. The person who drove us that night, unfortunately, got a branch swung back and took his contact out. And so I had to start the story off with that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you can go there legally, highly recommend it. It's a beautiful place. But I believe that it is haunted. So if you're going there and you believe in ghosts, well, go there with a little bit of caution, a little bit of respect. A lot of respect. Honestly. If you're going there, go with a lot of respect.
After Mick read the history, like I really do feel when you go to places like this that have the history, like you should have the utmost respect for the people did lose their lives there in terrible ways. That's what the main character in my story ended up reliving an experience of one of the patients where they that patient had died from asphyxiation. That was one of the, as Mick read, the lawsuits. The main issue was people being fed while on their back and breathing in like that food and choking on it much.
Yeah, definitely go with a lot of respect. When we first went, we still went with respect, but we didn't know that. And we didn't know, like I didn't. I thought it was just like, your normal run-of-the-mill, hospital that finally couldn't do funding no more, so they closed down. I didn't realize there was like over 400 deaths of unreported deaths, all put in a mass grave. That's insane. And to think that we were just wandering the halls of that much energy and that much negative, like, emotions flowing through there, I'm surprised we didn't, honestly, experience more stuff.
I'm surprised too. Our next story for next week, I think, is going to be based on a hospital called Glendale in the area. That is where I had like the most ghost activity that I still can't explain to this day. If you're interested, just tune in next week. My story is based on my real experience that I had there. But I'm surprised here, Forest Haven. I did not. Being there at midnight, I thought for sure we'd see something or catch some more. This is back when we were teens. If you check out our Instagram, I do have some photos posted from that visit. They're pretty bad because it was years ago. As we go for these stories, we do plan to try to get permission and get some new photos and footage and stuff. If you stick with us, I promise. But we do have some. I do have some photos posted on our Rusted Bus
Instagram page, but they're like 2012, 2013. So then I got great.
Yeah.
We were teenagers, so we didn't.
But
We
it
know what we were doing.
no,
It was not a great ghost hunt, if that's what we thought we were doing.
and that's actually the funny thing about it is researching Forest Haven. There actually wasn't that many like experiences. Most people caught like EVPs, a lot of pictures, but there are stories about like people having a bad feeling or like they're being watched, and I didn't really get that when I was okay, no, I did have a really eerie feeling when we went into the school because there was like I don't know if it was for kids or what, but there was a school and they had a bunch of desks like stacked to the very top of the ceiling in like one random hallway, and I did get a really bad feeling. You shouldn't be here. That was like the one time I got bad, and in the church. Funny enough.
I was going to say
Funny
the
enough,
church.
yeah.
The
In the
church, I think, is where most people in our group said they had felt very odd. And I do believe it's where we found a Ouija board, right?
Yeah,
Ouija board?
it was.
Ouija?
I think it's Ouija.
I'm
Yeah,
pretty
it
sure
was
we
actually
found like
up
a
at
homemade.
where the pastor calls. We
It's
found it
made
there.
from like cardboard, right? Like
Uh-huh.
I thought it was. So I don't know if that had anything to do with the weird feeling, but the church did have a very ominous feeling that made most people in our group start to feel uncomfortable after a while.
And honestly, like the night that we went there and we saw like the cat's head, that was also like it wasn't like a negative feeling, but I got a really weird feeling the whole time. Like it felt like something was going to happen, and so I kept on looking behind me like the entire time we were walking around. But yeah, like I said, like funny enough, there's not a lot of experiences, but there actually was this other group called Charm City Paranormal with Michael and Ethan. They also like they researched and went Forest Haven a lot. Like they have over like 50 videos of them just exploring. It's a big ground. I think what I say is like 295 square feet and like 27 buildings. It's huge, really big. And their videos is them just going through almost every single building. And in one of their buildings, I think it might have been like a child daycare. That one, they actually were able to catch a few EVPs, like kids saying, help me or like with you. And I think it was Michael. He actually had one follow him back to his house. And he still called EVPs as a little girl. And, like they would talk to each other, and he thinks that he was actually able to help her like, move on because after a long talk, he stopped hearing her voice and everything. And so, if you go there with respect, and go there with caution because there's definitely energy still lingering. It has a very bad.
It is one of the most interesting places I think we went into, despite even like I said, like Glendale having the most paranormal I think experience I've had. But just there's so much stuff left behind. Most of the abandoned places you go to, they get gutted pretty
Out,
quick.
yeah.
Forest Haven though, and you will see in the pictures if you look up, like we found a full on like coat. There's employee notes still left around. Documentation, like paperwork for some of the patients. There's rooms like I think probably like the gym look area. I remember there being rooms just full of shoes, and that is like kind of the most. It reminds me of when I went to like if you go to like the Holocaust Museum, and you just see they have that room full of shoes. It just made me think of that. And when you know what these people went through, it's very heavy feeling.
It's very grounding to realize that
Yes.
you're walking in a place where terrible things happen.
So not that many places have like the paperwork. Just like they literally left everything. And I said, and again, it was inspired a story of them finding paperwork on the desk and being able to read about patients because when we went, like you could just pick up paperwork and read, and it was about the patients and their progress for the day or things that went wrong. When you went to the morgue, they had death certificates just thrown around the room, like real death certificates. You can read about the real people that died in that morgue, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
But please don't take anything. I know it's.
I was about to say, getting back to the whole respect thing. You have to show respect.
I know people that do take things because they just can't help it because it feels like a memento. But I do not feel like if you were to go, like I said, be careful. Like be careful.
At your own risk.
Yeah. And these places, one thing I wish when I was a teen, though, also make sure you wear a mask. We probably should have worn masks.
The next few locations we're going to be talking about were very bad with asbestos at night. And we should have been more careful, but we didn't know.
Goodness.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're new here. Thanks for joining us on our very first episode. We do hope to have better quality in audio and video as we figure this out. It's our first time really trying to put this. Our second time.
We'll get better as we grow, as we go on. We'll get better.
Thanks for joining us today. Please check out our YouTube. We're going to try to open up YouTube, where we're going to try to post more like videos and stuff of going to certain places that we're allowed to now. Sure, we go.
Legally.
And also games. We plan to post like some streams of like us playing like some scary games and stuff. If you're into anything kind of like creepy and the fun like horror stories and stuff, that's what we're all about. Is doing like creepy stories and talking about stuff like ghosts and the paranormal and stuff like psychic-y stuff. That's all that stuff is is fun. And if you're interested, I think you should hopefully follow.
Yeah, definitely. And we would love to hear from you too. Like I will never get enough hearing people's like ghost stories, anything weird. Please tell me all of it. I think we're gonna be on Thread as well.
Threads,
and
yeah.
And YouTube. So like in the comments, everything. We'd love to hear stories, especially if they're like on the topic of like what we're doing around that time. Would love to hear. Can never get enough.
It's outro time.
All right. Well, that's it. Doors open. Thanks for joining us on the ride. Thanks for being our passengers. We'll see you at the next stop, which will be Glendale Hospital.